to share with you is a very important hip mobilization. This can be used as an assessment, so you can self-assess your symmetry throughout the actual hip complex. In addition, it can be used daily for a mobilization of the connective tissue that wraps around the hip. Now I have a nice little model here. As you'll see with this model, the pelvis is a closed osseous ring. And in simple, what that means, it's like a steering wheel. It's connected. And then you see dangling here two femur bones. So anytime we move in life, this closed osseous ring is integrated and has a direct effect on both femoral bones. Therefore, this symmetry from one side to the next becomes critical for back health, for knee health, total kinetic chain health. So this movement can be performed anywhere. Right here I have a nice table. Let's just say this table was too low to get into my hip complex, personally speaking. I could simply put towels here or a big blanket to build it up. We oftentimes at home will use the corner of a couch. So allow me to share with you one side. Everything I do on one side should be replicated on the other side to A, measure, to mobilize once you find your results and assess. So I'm going to bring my leg up and take you through the technicalities, because it's not what you do, it's how you do it. So the goal here is to get this left bone up and rotated out. In the model, it looks like this. The left hip is flexed, or the femur bone's flexed on the pelvis, and it's actually externally rotated out, where the right side is nice and straight. What you do not want to do is bring your leg outward like this, because what that does is it shortens a lot of the connective tissue back here that we're trying to target. So it's essential that you square up, so to speak. So I'm going to square myself like this. Now what should not happen is any pinching sensation in the front. If that occurs, think height of table may be too high, so you can lower it, or you're creating a contraction in your hip joint. So first try to relax, adjust the table, and you can even put a little bit of overpressure down to see if it alleviates that uncomfortable feeling in the front of the left hip, if your left hip is upright as mine is. So again, we're going to square up like this. Now once you're square, the goal is to grab onto your pelvis and literally move it. Now be very careful not to move your spine. You're not going to get a lot of motion, but just a little bit of motion is a lot with respect to mobilizing the connective tissue. So on the model, it actually looks like this. You're actually pulling your pelvis, in this case, to the left. So the steering wheel is turning to the left. And if you feel greater tension there, it simply means you need a little bit more attention there. So spend some time doing that. My right hand can also act as a driving force. I can wrap right around the sacrum. The sacrum is this bone right here. So I'm wrapped around the sacrum and the pelvic bone like this on my body. And I'm simply turning to the left. And that helps to open up this left side. Also can have an effect on the front medial, sometimes lateral downside. The downside in this case is the right side. Once you perform this, you can then progress to simply bringing your spine into a flexion posture. Very, very slow. Think of each block moving down, 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 down. And think of your sternum bone moving closer and closer towards the table. It's very, very slow. Many of you may recognize this as a standing pigeon pose. The reason why we're doing it standing and not on the floor is because we have to respect the symmetry on both sides, and we don't want the floor to obstruct our hip mobility. Oftentimes people will have tightness in their hip, or it could be asymmetry in their hip. If they're on the floor, they then get extraneous motion at their back and or hip. So here, this freedom in standing allows us to really hone in on what you do have available, therefore the success of symmetry or the lack of. Remember, we said it's an assessment as well. So once again, you square yourself up, play with different heights, whether it be higher or lower, because that's going to have an effect in this plane on the tissue tension. And then once you have your tension set, literally take your hands as if you're grabbing onto a steering wheel and turn the pelvis slowly, slowly, slowly. Once you've accomplished that success, then you're going to move your spine very, very, very slowly forward and down. Progressions from there can be to take your right hand, cross it over, left hand up as high as possible, and try to elongate your rib cage from your pelvis. And then laterally bend over. In this case, my left hand is going along the right lateral plane, as far as I possibly can go. We'll show you some more variations in upcoming clips.